case. The Brown family had a child. That was what the plaintiff was. What grade was she in? Second question. Roe v. Wade. Major abortion case. What color hair did Roe have?
It looked like he was second grade for some reason.
Okay, but it doesn't matter is the point. Okay? Sometimes the facts matter. Other times they don't matter at all. When we go through the Harris Act hypo tonight, the facts do matter. They matter very, very clear. A lot of times when the United States Supreme Court makes a decision, the facts don't matter because they're kind of like setting out a framework to go forward. But let me tell you what I was taught a long time ago as a lawyer. When the facts are on your side, you argue the facts. When the law is on your side, you argue the law. And when neither are on your side, you just argue. Okay? Because many times, prior to Brown versus Board of Education and prior to Roe v. Wade, the facts and law were not on their side. Someone argued and they changed the law. So what you need to understand is going through a review of the 130 items. Item 25 said statutory law and ordinances. That's where Congress, state legislatures like in Tallahassee, or a city commission in Fort Lauderdale pass a law. And you can go to the book and it's pretty clear. Where there you're not really arguing the facts. It's okay, here's the law. If you have a dog, it's going to be on a leash, you know? If you don't have insurance, you have to spend money on Obamacare, we're going to fine you. You know, that's the law, pretty clear. Go to 26, case law. That's where I said before, let's make believe Brown versus Education, it was a girl, second grade. Well, we don't need to now bring a boy in the third grade in to argue the same thing over again. It applies. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to spend some time going through line by line of the hypo. Because every sentence probably means something. And every sentence probably should be triggering your mind back to something we spoke about on the 130 things. Okay? I am on page 862 of the hypo. I sent you 2 emails this week only. One, I think, came through. I don't know if the second one. Can we get the door, please? Did everyone get this email? Picture of what I did last year on the chalkboard. I tried to send you another email, but I don't know if it went through or not. The pictures.
The pictures, that one?
No. There was a second email that would have had pictures of condos on the Bahia Mar. I don't think it came through. Yeah, did you see them? Pictures did come through. Okay, good. What we're going to do tonight is make sure we're all on the same page with this. I think I mapped this out correctly. And if I said to you, since most of my development is on the Florida coast, it's always a little bit difficult when you get the east and west flipped around. Has anyone been to Naples, Fort Myers, Tampa? You understand I-75 is our I-95. Most of the development on the West Coast is west of their I-75, okay? And this picture is basically, and this case study is about 20 years old, but it still applies. You can see all the way to the far left in the picture is the water. That's a blue line showing the water. And you have the city, ABC City. What you need to understand, and my wife always makes this mistake for the last 25 years, and I've tried to help her. I do not live in the city of Boca Raton. I live in unincorporated Palm Beach County, and I happen to have a Boca Raton mailing address, but I'm out west, okay? So you need to make sure you don't get your cities and counties mixed up, okay? If I want to do an extension on my house in West Boca Raton, I don't go down to City Hall. They're going to kick me out. They say, we don't care about you. I have to go up to West Palm Beach. So you need to know that this property, the YY Ranch, it might have, let's say, a Naples or a Fort Myers mailing address. It's in the unincorporated area. You need to get that nailed down. Just like I didn't want any of you to be embarrassed saying to your boss, oh, we can do in Boca Raton a car dealership on US 1 in the B1 zoning district. Well, you really can. If you bothered to flip the page and go to the next page, they gutted it. So you got to read the code, but you got to know where you are, okay? My wife still thinks we live in Boca Raton. We don't. That's for rich people. So you can see the YY property away from where the growth is. And I purposely said it was 1.5 acres beyond the development boundary. Notice I put the word boundary in quotes. I did that for a reason. Miami-Dade County has an official urban boundary line. Portland, Oregon has an official urban boundary line. If you're on one side of it, you can build. You're on the other side, you can't. This is not a real boundary line, but it basically has the same connotation as one. Okay? And you notice that the property is a half-mile away from water and sewer. We're going to get to this a little bit later, but we spoke about a case from New York from the 1970s that dealt with that issue. Okay? So this person went ahead and they acquired 162 acres of land, of which there were 30 acres of citrus and 132 acres of cattle. Now, if we were to do the Graham versus Estuary property case, what else would be on that land besides orange trees and a bunch of cows? What's the main thing from the Graham versus Estuary properties?
Wetlands?
Wetlands. Really environmental stuff. So this one, we don't have environmental stuff. We have stuff that's probably already been destroyed. In fact, what I used to do 25 years ago when I first started my career before they changed the rules, there were a lot of exemptions that farmers could do. So we would actually have the farmers fill wetlands for us and dig trenches for us, then buy the land, and then as a developer, it was already there. Then they closed that loop. So everyone understands the picture, okay? Before you arrived, I asked a question. Now I'm going to ask you, put you in the spot. Brown versus education. You know what that case is about?
Yes.
Okay. What grade was the student in?
You know, I don't know.
And it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But it might end up being $1 million question.
No. But the point is, that doesn't matter.
Right.
What color hair Roe v. Wade had doesn't matter. In contrast, the facts matter here. We're going to go through line by line because this is very, very factual. Okay? And as we go through it, hopefully you're going to say, wow, 4 weeks ago before I met this guy, if I read this, I would have just skipped over that. Now you realize each of these have a whole bunch of little minefields of knowledge. Okay, I'm going to read to you the first paragraph on page 862. What can a Florida real property owner do when a state or local government regulation makes it substantially more difficult or perhaps impossible to use her property in a way she had long planned? Fundamental question, and this is a real world thing. This takes place today. The one thing I want you to learn here is notice it's at state or local government. If you go back to the 130 items, and you go to items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you could change this to say what happens when a federal, state, regional, county, or local government does something. If you're going to be a developer, you have to realize you might get hit from every possible government that's out there. What relief does the property owner have when a regulation substantially reduces the current market value of her land and perhaps totally eliminates any economic viable or profit-making use? Then what legal advice would you give her? This person who wrote this is actually a very, very fine, prominent local government attorney today. When she wrote this, she was still in law school. She did a good job. I think today she would like to probably rewrite it and make it a little bit tighter, but she's done a good job. We're going to go through this because I think it's a great learning example to pull so many things together. Okay, second paragraph. Possible traditional common law remedies include regulatory taken claims or equitable estoppel claims. Okay? When we say regulatory taken claims, you need to, if I gave you a test next class and I let you take in one piece of paper, you should draw on that Loretto to the left, Lucas to the right. If it's a 100% regulatory taken claim, is that a Lucas or a Loretto? Well, Loretto was the cable thing. That was a physical taken. Lucas was where the government did not take the land, but said you can't use it at all. Okay? So what we did 2 weeks ago and last week, that whole balancing of Loretto, Lucas, and Penn Central in the middle, is really what they mean by this regulatory taken claim. Everyone get that? We're on page 862.
What's the name of that file? I'm having trouble locating it.
Harris.
Which day?
Where are you going?
Got it.
You just.
We're going through that, and we're going through the email that I sent out this week that had the picture of the map to help you. Okay?
It was a law student that wrote this?
A law student wrote this, yes. She was on law review. Okay, so let's refocus. Regulatory taken, all that means is the government has so regulated something, passed a law, you say, you basically, for all intents and purposes, taken my property. That's what you can do. The second thing they can do is this thing called equitable estoppel. That's where it goes to the fairness test. Where you say, look, you haven't really taken my property, but your actions have been so unfair, it wouldn't be right and just for you to do what you're doing to me. Okay? Those are the two common remedies that a real estate developer property owner has when the government has hit you in the face. Okay? If you go down to the next paragraph, on this page 862. They talk about in the second line, in 1995, they passed something called the Harris Act. Okay? And in a nutshell, go down where it says in line 2, you see the word Harris Act. You go down 2 more lines. This is to help a property owner where the level is right below the threshold of a taken claim under the Constitution. Okay? It goes like this. Lucas is pretty clear. You can't use your beachfront property for anything except to stand on it and put a tent and look at the stars. Very rarely are you going to get that extreme in the real world. And the 3-part balancing test for Penn Central is kind of like, well, what does it really mean? Are you going to bet the family farm that you're going to win the dice on that one? The good old Republicans in Tallahassee who believe in property rights passed the Harris Act to be another remedy for people who aren't quite a Lucas, because it's not the 100%, and they don't have to roll the dice on the balancing test, okay? Because what does a judge do that I do every morning? Puts his pants on. I have good days and bad days. Do you want to roll the dice on what a judge says? So this was something else to give another more solution. Now let me tell you something. And hopefully this is the one thing you take from this class. Settle, settle, settle. There aren't that many Bert Harris claims that actually go through the whole system and end up in a court in a battle with the final Judge Judy solution. But it's another way to kind of like force the settlement. Okay? And it's kind of like this. If you play the game of cards, 7-card stud, it's kind of like my first 2 cards you don't see, and the next 5 you do, the next 4 you do, and I see your 4. Look at the Bert Harris thing as each side is showing most of their cards. And you get a sense, gee, do I want to settle? Do I want to fold? Do I want to raise up? And it's kind of like getting people to come to the middle. Okay? Because what you don't want to be is that junior executive in a real estate company where you think you're going to tell your boss, oh, we're going to win this thing, okay? Put some money aside, I'll work with the lawyers for the next year. I think it's only going to be $500,000 and we're going to hit a home run. 5 years later, $4 million later, after 3 appeals, you're still no closer to developing and the market's changed. Okay, settle. So, before tonight, it was something equitable. It's not, it smells. 3 days, it smells. Doesn't feel right. Property owners should get relief. Or, you've taken my property. Now there's something in the middle. And they use this buzzword, if you go to the top of 863, the first line, inordinate burden. Let's assume I'm willing to give you a free A. You never have to show up, and I'll give you a job with Terry Stiles. I'll call him right now. Tell me he's the biggest construction developer in town. If any of you can tell me what an inordinate burden is. Do you know? Not really. You know, you might think you know. It's a case by case. It's very factual driven. So yeah, the legislature has tried to help property owners out. But whether it's a 3-part balancing test on the Penn Central, or you trying to argue, well, I think it's been an inordinate burden. Well, gee, the judge's kid just got arrested for DUI the next day. The wife left him, and he's sitting there saying, you think that's an inordinate burden? Think about my world. May not be very sympathetic. This is the real world. So you don't want to roll the dice either on a Harris Act. But the city attorney who's poking at you knows you have those rights. So it brings both sides to the middle to try to settle. Everyone get that? It's just one more tool in the toolbox. But I don't want you to ever think you're going to try to do an equitable estoppel argument or a taken claim or a Bert Harris thing. That's the last resort. It's kind of like if you came from a rough family. You don't go right to the divorce. You first go to counseling. You try to work it out. You have a romantic weekend away to see if that will patch things up. You go through a whole bunch of steps. But you don't walk in one day and say, I'm getting a divorce. At least you hope not. You know, that's the final. You try to work it out for the sake of the kids. Same thing here. Try to work it out. I'm beating this point down, but it's critical. Okay, I'm on 163, which says the hypo.
You mean 863?
863. I'm probably dyslexic and stupid and I've been up for a while. Okay, the first two paragraphs, all they say is this: Jane Doe is a smart cookie. She has background, she has experience.
Credible.
She's credible. And that gets down to a reasonable expectation. Now, prior to the Great Recession, I couldn't get in to see my dentist because he thought he could make more money being a real estate developer than he could a dentist. Okay, so I'll see in 6 months. I'm too busy playing Donald Trump. That person had no credibility. Okay, Jane Doe has put her whole career on the line. She's sophisticated. That's what the first two paragraphs say. The third paragraph just tells you who she is, what the property is, and about the county and the city. That's what the fourth one says. Okay? I'm at the top now of 864, and you see line 2 and 3 about the development in the area tapers off about 1.5 miles away. Okay? All of those facts so far I've shown you on this. Let's go to the first full paragraph on 864. Towards the bottom. Her estimated profit is 1 to 1.5 million. Okay? If you're successful in this program and you graduate, and on the day of graduation, somebody buys you a dog, and then you go to name the dog, hopefully you're going to name the dog pro forma. Because all you're going to really do for the rest of this thing is run pro formas. Okay? Run in the numbers. Because that's where you get down to the 1 million to 1.5. We haven't really focused on this because this is kind of like giving you the overview of the legal framework, but this is still a business school. Okay? She's doing this to make money. It's not a hobby. Everyone get that? Okay, let's go to the next paragraph. The land was zoned agriculture. Cool. What did I do the first day I showed you?
Showed us how to.
I showed you a land use map, then I showed you a zoning map. And then I told all of you for Boca Raton to go figure out how to do something and how to look at a map and look at a code. And most of you didn't realize, gee, you really can't build it because it doesn't work. Codes sometimes can be tough. But you always start with what is the comprehensive plan, what is the zoning. Okay? And then you go down to the next paragraph. The county comprehensive plan, comma, looking 3 to 5 years in the future, comma, said that it could be retail and residential. Okay? This is a very important distinction, and I think I made this point before. When I started my career 25 years ago, there would be a future land use map that showed land yellow for residential and red for commercial on the future land use map. But if I went to the zoning map, it would be AG for agriculture. And if I had Google Earth, which we didn't have back then, and I looked at a picture of it, there would be cows and citrus trees. Because the whole purpose initially was a future land use map is the community getting together to say sometime in the future we're going to allow residential and commercial here. Why that's a little bit hard to understand in South Florida is the future's already happened. There's no land left. But on the West Coast and the Panhandle, there'll be that gap. And you need to understand that. And what you need to understand, we went through this before on the 130 items. When the government sets a comprehensive plan, it's their legislative decision what they want to do. It's not quasi-judicial. 99% of the time, a judge is not going to overturn a legislative decision. The judge is not going to say, look, I know that's not developed yet, but look, I really don't think you should do this. No, that's for the elected officials to figure out. But once it's been decided, then people have to be treated fairly and they meet the rules they're allowed to develop. So what you need to understand here was they had the right comprehensive plan. They had the wrong zoning, but at least there was the framework to get there. Now, if the comprehensive plan also said AG for agriculture, and you wanted to do this, what would you need to do?
The comprehensive plan said AG?
Yeah. Did it say residential or retail?
You'd have to change the zoning?
Well, yes, but you first have to change the comprehensive plan. You have to do a comp plan amendment. Comp plan amendments can get done twice a year. It takes a little bit longer because it's a longer cycle. But the point of it is, if you're going to go vertical and you're going to borrow money from a bank to go vertical, you got to make sure the comprehensive plan and the zoning are consistent. Here, you had the good comprehensive plan, but not the right zoning. So clearly you needed to get the zoning. But at least there's a framework to go there. Then continuing in that paragraph, county water and sewer lines are in place 1.5 mile away. That's a growth management issue. Remember we did Petaluma, Ramapo in the Boca Raton case? The Ramapo case from New York said, we will get the utilities to you sometime in the next 18 years. So if you skip over to the 130 items, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82 are all growth management. You can't force this government to extend the utility lines out there. That's the government's decision. It's their lines. Okay? Okay, let's go to the next paragraph. And this is where we do a little bit of real estate contract work. Miss Doe offers to purchase the property contingent upon obtaining the zoning. You should circle the word contingent, put bells, whistles, stars next to it. For you to buy undeveloped land without the zoning,
It's terrible.
it's not terrible, but it's kind of like, you want to go to Vegas with me? And we'll take $100,000, we'll put it down, we'll spin the bowl around, and maybe we'll get red, maybe we'll get black. You don't know.
Right.
It's kind of risky. And that's why I said before, real estate development is nothing more than the allocation of risk. 5 years ago, when we were still in the middle of this Great Recession, the farmer would say, I'll give you 180 days due diligence. I'll give you more if you need it, and I'll wax your car for you. Things are getting a little bit better now. There's no 180-day due diligence.
Right.
It might be 30 days, and then I want $1 million deposit going hard. The market determines where the things are. But for you, now when I was working with the Blackstone Group, right, we made the worst buy you could ever have made. It was the night before the Great Recession hit the peak. If we went out of our way to trip over ourselves to buy at the height of the market, we did. Because we thought it was going to go on a little bit longer. We thought we had a great deal. And it turned out not to be a great deal. And it was kind of like, I said, well, gee, I'd like to complete a land use investigation and do my due diligence. And I think we need 30, but I prefer 60 days. And my partners in New York said we got this under contract and they gave us 3 days. So do the best you can.
Wow.
Because we thought we got such a great deal. Even the good people make mistakes. Your job, because you're not going to start at the top unless it's your money or family money, is you want to do good due diligence. There's a new show out called Billions on Showtime. And I watched Shameless, and then I realized, good, my family's not that messed up. And then I watched the show Billions. It's about a hedge fund guy. But he has the top people doing analytical work for him, studying, looking at the stuff. You can't do enough due diligence. This isn't like going to Walmart compared to Target and say, well, which one sells a can of soup at a better price? Okay? That's where due diligence comes in. So luckily, Miss Doe got this under contract. And her contingencies were, really, she wanted to do 3 things. Entry-level single-family homes for young families. 250 multifamily apartments, and then retail strip shopping center. Okay? That's what she wanted to do. That was her business plan. Okay? So far, everything we've spoken about is garden variety. This gets done 24 hours a day in real estate things. The bottom of page 864, going over the top of 865. ABC County Commission, not the City Commission, the County Commission, because we're unincorporated, granted the zoning designation. She got her zoning, right? So now her zoning and her comp plan are consistent, and then she can go to the next level, which would probably be a site plan, subdivision plan, then building permit, and then eventually a CO. But she got what she wanted. She paid $3,750 per acre, 162 acres, to get down to a total investment of a little over $600,000. Okay? Then she spent another $300,000. I'm in the first full paragraph on 865. She spent another $300,000 on engineering and design. When I did the Bahia Mar project that we finally got approved, I had millions invested in design fees. Millions. So right now, she has about $900,000 invested. Okay? And her goal, the first full paragraph, this is very important, this is why the facts matter. First full paragraph on 865. A preliminary plat and development plan was scheduled to be completed and ready for submittal. Ready for submittal, using the English language to help you, means what? It has not been submitted.
Right.
It's ready for submittal, but it's not been submitted. That is a major fact. That's the difference between a yes and a no. That's why facts matter in this case. It wasn't ready yet, but it would have been ready March of 1996. Because it takes time. You hire consultants, they got to design it, they got to review, it takes time. But the next paragraph, something happened a little bit before that. 2 new county commissioners were elected November 1995. And you should put right here, I've said this before, 3 words. Elections have consequences. Okay? Then you go down, these people don't wait. This is kind of like Donald Trump getting in. The day after he's in, he's going to kill Obamacare. These people got in November. Look at the next paragraph. In December, the next month. Okay? They proposed changing the zoning. Okay? And they voted to rezone the area. Now, this is important. Go to this little map. they did not target the little green box alone. They went after the whole area. If you remember when I spoke about my Bahia Mar project where the first hotel was 15 stories and now we can only do 12 as of right, they didn't just go after my one property, they did the whole area. So this way, if you only went after the little green box, what would you do then? You might say, hey, equal protection. You're being arbitrary and capricious. You're picking on me. Okay? But no, that's not what they did. So if you look in that paragraph, the new zoning designation reduced density from 4 units per acre to a max of 2.5. Now you need to understand lawyers have to be very good in English. And you need to learn how to read. I don't want you to get fired at your first job. If you go to your boss and say, hey, we can do 2.5 units per acre, that's not what it says. It says that's the max you can do. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed. There might be other issues in the code, just like the Boca Raton zoning code. Read the effing code. What does it say? Okay, you might have something called neighborhood compatibility. Neighborhood compatibility is where the government puts in the code and says, well, we'll let you go up to 2.5, but if we don't think you're compatible with the neighbors, you can't. Well, compatibility is kind of like, what is an inordinate burden? You know, what is too far? So you got to learn to read like a lawyer. Every word matters. Don't be careless with your words. Don't gloss over them. That's not the key issue in this case, but I want you to see that. So basically, there was a downzoning from 4 units per acre to 2.5. Okay? And if you continue there, it also says the zoning does not permit multifamily. So she can't do the 250 multifamily apartments. So the multifamilies going from 250 to 0. The single family homes are going from 500 to 340. And then it says why a development of 750 residential units would support the public shopping center. A development of 340 units would not even support a bad Winn-Dixie. Okay? So basically, she lost her retail, she lost her apartments, and now she has bigger homes. And you go to the next paragraph. The reduced density means the single-family lots have to be larger, which means the per lot cost is higher. Go back to that $300,000. You divide through by 500 lots, gives you a different number divided through by 340 lots. So each one's more money. Okay? And it's like this. Let's talk about BMWs, because all of you, that's what your dream should be. You go home at night, you're a business person, put next to the clock a BMW. There's the three, actually I'm confused now because I've added a whole bunch of different numbers, but it used to be 3, 5, and then we'll say 7. Forget about the specialty ones, okay? She wanted to build a whole bunch of 3 Series BMWs. She thought that's where the market was. Now that there's been a downzoning, she has to do 7 Series. But if you can afford a 7 Series BMW, you're not in this part of town. You're over by the water. So the problem is the zoning is not consistent with the marketing analysis. Because if you get puppies, get 2 dogs, the first one you name pro forma, the second one you call market study. Because you need to do a pro forma and a market study on everything. You know, I can teach the whole 12 months in one semester. That's all you need to know. Do you have your zoning? Do you have your financing lined up? And does the market support you? Go develop. And you can see how she doesn't believe it's going to work. So go to 266 at the top. Mrs. Doe does not anticipate being able to make a profit of more than $500,000, with maybe $250,000 being the most realistic. Okay, while you're stepped out, we're now on the top of 866. We see that there's been a down zoning because there's been new elected officials. So she has less density for the single-family homes. She can't do the multifamily, and there's no market at this time for the publics because not enough rooftops. So her $1 million to $1.5 million profit is now down to a quarter to a half, most likely a quarter. Okay? And you continue the first full paragraph on 866. It just reconfirms it's not economically viable to support the retail there. There's also the right to do office, but there's no market for that. But look at the last sentence of that first full paragraph on 866. I think this is very important. Finally, comma, the designation allows for limited agricultural uses like the former owner's citrus farming. You remember Penn Central case? That's where you had the New York City Grand Central, beautiful train station. And he wanted to build a 50-story tower cavaliered or levered above it. Still going to run the trains. And that's where the Supreme Court made up the three-part balancing test. But the key thing was, you bought the land, okay, for a train station. You still have a train station. We're not taking your train station away. Okay? Here, if you buy land that's farmland, and you don't really yet have your zoning, and it's a political process, and it's never carved in stone, but we're still going to let you farm, well, it starts to look a little bit like, hey, you can still run your train station. So that's why I said every sentence here is not her being, let me write a good novel. This is her being a good future lawyer, putting all these issues out. And when you go to law school, if you ever want to go to law school, it's right next door. You spend your entire time spotting issues. Because I could take the smartest person in the English department, ask them to read this, they're going to miss this because they're not trained to spot issues. Okay? So, basically, we have a woman who knows what she's doing. She bought some land contingent upon the zoning. She got her zoning. Politics took place. They changed the zoning. She can still do something, but not what she wanted to do. So now let me ask people a question. We have Loretto on the one hand, and we have Lucas on the other hand, at the extreme. Loretto is the 100% physical taken, the cable line. Is this a Loretto case, yes or no? No. The government's not taking anything. This isn't the government coming in saying we're going to run water drainage for the whole community on your property, or we're going to put a hospital or a road. No. So you don't throw Loretto out. Okay, Lucas, beachfront property, can't build a thing. You can put a tent up for a couple of hours, look at the stars. 100% regulatory taken. Is this a Lucas situation?
On that
No.
side. On that side.
Well, I agree, it smells more like a Lucas than a Loretto, but what you need to realize when you map this out, those are the two extremes. Those are the bookends. 100% regulatory taken, you can't do a damn thing. Or 100% physical. What can she still do here?
The retail. No.
What?
The retail.
A less amount.
Lesser amount. She can still build.
Office. Oh,
She can do office,
Profit margin.
agriculture,
high-end homes.
But it's stuff that,
high-end homes.
stuff that she didn't want to do.
But okay, but are we gonna give her money because she made a bad investment?
No.
Okay? So we have to, what I'm trying to get you to realize here, the slam dunk, Helen Keller being blind, can see a Lucas and a Loretto on the extremes. That's easy. We're not there. We're somewhere in the middle. What is the middle test? Penn Central, three-part balancing. I don't know what it means. I mean, I can tell you what it says. I can tell you what other cases have said, but each judge is different. It kind of like gets down to this. If you want to fine for the government, you're going to balance for the government. If you want to fine for the property owner, you're going to balance for the property owner, and you're going to use this to kind of like justify your personal gut feeling. If you finally get your $100,000 plus job in BMW working for a major developer, do you want to bet your reputation, your employment, and company money on a balancing test?
Right.
No. And the Harris Act, inordinate burden, don't know if it's much better either. So I was talking to someone today, and I gave this analogy. Someone's trying to get a project approved. It's actually my old BHMR project. And they had to cover their ass. So they went to a rock star financial consultant. And all this rock star financial consultant said, and I'm paraphrasing, the current lease is a single in baseball, and the new proposal is a double. And we all know a double's better than a single. Pay me my money. Well, that's great. But you didn't answer the question, what's the property worth? Okay? They were just trying to get a deal done, so they had to get something. Okay? But no one wanted to ask the tough question, what's it really worth? That's kind of like the balancing test. People make their mind up. I look at each of you, and I say to myself, are you a good student or are you a bad student? You know? And then I might say, well, I'm going to get so much for the midterm, so much for the final, so much for class participation. And then at the end of the day, I sit there and I say, yeah, what do I think? And when I teach at the other school, and I have the great syllabus that lays it out, what I do, because I want to give people better grades than not, I don't give back their prior work during the semester. And I take 6-7 hours out at the end. I had 66 students in one class. I put their first project, their second project, and their final exam in front of me. And I look at them all, and I say, you know what? If I want to be difficult, I could give this person a low B because they didn't do well in the final. But some people don't take tests as well as others, but they did a great project. And I knew they know something. So it's kind of like I balance. And then I kind of like say, yeah, that's what they do. So if you feel lucky and you want to put your hands in a judge, okay, you have to realize something. There's two kinds of people who want to be judges. And this is a very broad brush statement. It's those that have already made their multi-millions that now want to go back and do something fun. And usually those people can get into the federal bench. Or it's lawyers not really that good. They're not making the big six-figure salaries. And they kind of like say, well, gee, if I get a judge, at least it's $142,000 a year, and they give me a black robe, and people call me Your Honor. But they're not really the A-plus rock stars. They might have done personal injury, workman's comp. Nothing against that kind of work. But the smartest people in law school don't go into personal injury, workman's comp. Okay? So the question becomes, you've got a complex valuation of business, real estate, and you're going to trust someone like that? I don't know. I wouldn't.
Interesting.
So that's why I'm going to say again, try to settle. Okay, go to the bottom of page 866. The last paragraph, line 3. She needs legal advice. No disrespect to any of you. All of you need legal advice. At this point, based on spending the last 4 weeks together and you doing some homework, you now know issues you may not have known before. You might be able to spot them. but you still need to walk down the hall to general counsel or get on the phone to outside counsel. And at least now you can tee the issue up better to have that discussion. But this class is not going to give you enough guidance to be your own lawyer, because if you go to the 130 items, the last item, she who represents herself has a fool for a client.
I wrote down when I was reading this, did she not seek land use attorney soon enough or legal advice soon enough? Because I know in the previous classes, one of the things you kept saying was, at the end of this class, you're helping us know when we should seek legal counsel.
I think let's assume she did, because the good news is she had a contract contingent upon zoning.
Right.
And she thought, okay, I need another 5 months to get my site plan development plans ready to go. What she probably needed was not land use counsel. She probably needed a good lobbyist, political consultant, to help us say, hey, the ice is melting around you.
Right.
You're on no, because let me tell you something. The minute you get elected, you start your next campaign. People always campaign. And if you have this kind of money invested, just add a couple of zeros and bring it up to current standards. You want to make sure you know that those 3 votes are always there. So and we're going to get to this as we go through the thing. She should have been put on notice based on the political rhetoric that the official mind of the county is changing. Okay? So it gets down to this. Last paragraph on 866, line 4. Because Miss Doe seems to have, quote, acted in reliance on the ABC County Commission zoning change, she could sue the county to enjoin the enforcement of the new designation under the theory of equitable estoppel. She could do that. You say, wait a minute. You knew I was doing this. We went through the rezoning together. I met with your staff on these plans. Okay? Would it be fair? Doesn't say she's going to win. You can make that argument. And quite frankly, you make every argument. If I'm taking this case, I'm going to argue equitable estoppel, taken, and 5 other things. Alternatively, but that's the wrong word. It's not alternatively. It should probably be in addition to. Okay? Ms. Doe could file an inverse condemnation claim against the county for a regulatory taken. I want to make sure you get the terminology down. If government's taken your property physically, and they tell you they're physically taking the property, that's eminent domain. They're not trying to hide it. They're being upfront. We're taking your land. We want to put a road through. Let's get the appraisals out and we'll pay you what it's worth. They're upfront about it. Eminent domain. When government says, well, gee, we don't really want them to do something on their property, but we don't want to pay for it, we're going to just try to hide, that is inverse condemnation. It's the same thing. Because from your point, you can't do what you want with your property, whether it's been physically taken or it's been told you can't do. So the word is inverse condemnation or regulatory taken. These are her 2 things she can do. She'd probably do both. And if you go to page 867, that first paragraph, if you're at line 1, under the historical overview, line 1, you see the word the Harris Act. Circle that. Then go down 1, 2, 3, 4 more lines. You'll see the word the doctrine of equitable estoppel. Circle that. And then go to the end of the paragraph and come up 3 lines. You see the word taken. Taking. Circle that. That's 1 paragraph showing you the 3 different things she can do. Okay? But let's just now peel the onion back a little bit. Go to page 868. The first paragraph, line 4 over to the right. The doctrine of equitable estoppel applies when a property owner, and there's a three-part test. It's a different three-part test. One, in good faith reliance upon an act of government. So there has to be some reliance in good faith. You have to be good faith about it. Two, substantially changes his or her position or incurs extensive obligations or expenses.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Where are we? Okay, yeah.
You see it? 868? So one, it's good faith reliance. Two, you change your position and spend money. And three, it would be unjust and unequitable if you don't help the property owner out. I love my dog. My wife's still out of town. She comes back Sunday. I love my dog more than anything in the world. I would not bet my dog's life on this three-part test. But if I'm given a Loretto 100% physical taken or a Lucas 100% regulatory, I'll bet my dog's life. But not here. Because I have to convince the judge it's in good faith. Then I got to convince him it's substantial. Well, is $1 million substantial but 990's not? I don't want to take that gamble. And then it's unjust. You have to realize something. I was listening to NPR today, and Obama, our president, is trying to do in his last term of office, changing the criminal laws to be more fair so we don't put people in jail for life for smoking a joint. Okay, I know that's an overstatement. But there's certain Republicans who say, what? They smoked a joint and they don't get the death penalty? You know, certain people, and I don't think I want to put my life in their hands, you know? So the point of it is, and this is in a federal court, a lot of those judges might have been appointed by the former president who was a Republican, very conservative, and then the next thing could be liberal. So the point I'm trying to say is, it's tough stuff. But go on beyond that, and you can see where we just ended with the word property owner, period, and the footnote 14 was there. Continue on. Another term often associated with this is the word vested rights. Do you remember I told you vested rights is my favorite thing in the world besides my dog? That means I can stick my, or on page 868, the first full paragraph, about 10 lines down, and it's saying equitable estoppel is vested rights. If I have vested rights, I can stick my tongue out at government all day long, and they can't hurt me, because I have vested rights. Question is, when do they vest? And then you go down to the next paragraph, and it talks about good faith. Now, some people don't look at the 99 things you do correct. They look at the one thing you do wrong and say it's not good faith. That might be a conservative Republican judge who's 92 years old. Other people, more liberal, say, well, you've done 60% correct. I'm not going to dwell on the 40% you have it. I think it's good faith. We all have a different barometer on that. So you continue on that paragraph with the good faith element, line 3. Estoppel may not be justified if the property owner has good reason to believe there's been an official change of the official mindset of the community. Let's assume, going back to this picture, you see the road that I have from I-95 heading all the way down to the city, down to the beach?
Where's I-95?
I'm sorry, I-75.
Okay, good.
I-75. It's the main road. It's Commercial Boulevard, it's Glades Road, it's Oakland Park, it's whatever. Or Palm Beach Lakes. It's the main road from the highway to the beach. In election season, politicians put campaign signs out there. What happens if you drive by for the 3 months before the elections and it's the name of your project, YY Ranch, with a big X through it? Or, Easton Growth with the big X through it? Or every political debate that took place was anti-growth? Gee, it's kind of like hard to say, well, good faith, But again, it's a tough test, yes.
Is that the case with your Bahia Mar, the pictures you showed us?
No, because I worked with the community, and we never got to that. A lot of this is more theoretical, because I never made a equitable estoppel. I was able to count to 3. What I'm trying to say here is, and this goes back to the most important premise, settle, settle, settle. How lucky do you want to be? Do you want to make sure you get... Listen, now let me tell you something. Broward County might have 30 judges in the civil division and maybe 20 judges in the criminal division. Of those 30 judges, they rotate on cases based on, it comes in, it's their number. You don't know who you're going to get. So you don't get to pick the judge you want. You might get that SOB, personal injury lawyer, that hates development. Okay? So that's why you go down to the footnote on that page, footnote 19. The court found that the red flag of an impending election and possible change of the elected officials might be enough to disprove good faith reliance. But again, I don't know the answer. When I started this class, I said facts matters. And even knowing these facts, we don't know for sure. Okay? And look, let's go to the next page, 869. And you might say, well, good, we're in Florida. The first full paragraph talks about a case called the Town of Largo versus Imperial Homes. You might think that case helps you. And it might help you. But again, the judge might distinguish the case. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. But go to the end, last paragraph on 870. This is where they try to take that Imperial case and apply it to Jane Doe. In the Jane Doe case, she had neither obtained a building permit nor made any physical change to the property. Okay? But she did make a substantial development expenditure. Furthermore, despite the ABC county campaign for county commissioners, which the ABC may argue put her on notice that the zoning might change, if you get the benefit of the Imperial Homes case, she's going to argue that she has the right to continue to rely upon the official mind until it changes. But remember I told you the thing called zoning in progress moratorium, and things are going to happen? Okay? The point of it is, this is a crapshoot. You're here to develop. Okay? And you know what? Sometimes, I don't know how to say this, and I'm glad I'm not being taped forever on perpetuity on that tape, but shit happens. She might have done everything right. She might have gotten the right team together, and sometimes, oh my God, that person got elected?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Do you realize, this, I think I said this to you, the city of Fort Lauderdale, 17% of the citizens vote. So sometimes I've been in situations where, oh my God, I wrote checks to the wrong side. And it's all public record, so they know that I supported the other side. Sometimes people, because what it is, other people get people out. And this is the situation. You want to make sure you're going to the churches and the temples the weekend before an election. Because you want to make sure the rabbi, the priest, and the pastor's telling their citizens to go out and vote on Tuesday. Okay? Because just because the fix might be in and you've done all the good business political stuff, people vote, not business people, citizens. Okay, let's go to page 872. The last paragraph says the Florida Supreme Court. And then towards the end, the court found that the only circumstance that led to the new rezoning was a political change or political climate, which in turn led to the composition of the commission changing, and that's why they voted against the multifamily in this situation. That was the Hollywood case, that basically the same situation. The politics, the neighbors screaming wanted new people in there, and then they changed the zoning. My point to you is, you go into court crying, oh, they don't like me, they voted against me, they changed the zone, it's all political, shame on them, feel sorry for me. It might work. It may not work. You know, judge might say, look, I'm not going to change the political will of the people. Zoning is not forever. Okay? Remember I told you I might be here more? 15 to 12, I could have cried. 15 to 1, I could probably say, hey, good faith, reliance, you've gone too far, equal protection. So I don't know if I want to make the argument, and I don't know if a judge wants to second guess people. And if you go over to page 873, the first full paragraph, they apply it to the case here. Second sentence. The fact that the new ABC County Commissioners' campaigns were opposed to continued eastward development along the county road leads to the conclusion that changes of zoning designation resulted from a change in political climate. Okay, fine, but that's what it's all about. Everything's political. And you might say, well, under the Hollywood case and the other one, she has the right to rely upon the official mind and keep the original zoning. I can tell you, but for reading this case, we don't talk about the official mind. Elections have consequences. People get in. So if you're going to win, you better have some pretty good vested rights. Not just, gee, I got my zoning changed. Not just, gee, I spent $300,000. Why weren't you pushing your architects, engineers to work through the holidays to get something submitted? They didn't even get the plan submitted. I'm not even talking approval. The lowest threshold is get your plans into the system. If they got submitted the day before election, a site plan, I think, okay, they beat the system. You didn't put a moratorium in effect. I know you don't have a building permit yet, but at least you're in the system. Mrs. Doe wasn't in the system. Because under the new zoning, they don't know what's in her mind. She maybe wanted to do the cattle. Maybe she wanted to do the executive homes. We don't know for sure, because she didn't do an application yet. So timing is everything. Now, on some levels, I'll use a football analogy. I work for a very large private equity firm. They're the true owner in the box at the football game. But many times I serve that role too. But most of the times I'm the quarterback on the field or the coach on the field getting my teams to go forward. Sometimes my architect is busy with other projects and says, I can get that to you in 12 weeks. I'll give you 7. Okay? Sometimes my engineer, wants to go fishing. No, I need it now. If you go into real estate and you're going to do a project, they're going to give you a fancy title, vice president, or director, or project manager. You know what you are? You're a babysitter.
Quarterback.
Well, you're a baby. I babysit. I get paid a lot of money to babysit professionals to get them all to move down the field together when they have other clients and other things. And my daughter's in a school play. Videotape it. I want my project. So the point of it is, you want it in. Forget about the time value of money. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure things don't change on you.
Right.
You want as much, look, you want belt, suspenders, double belt, double suspenders. You want as much vested rights as you can. Because you don't know what judge you're going to get. You want to make sure you say, Judge, this is outrageous. Okay? And going back to that Bert Harris inordinate burden, if you're not at the Lucas 100%, you better be in the 90s.
Okay.
Because most judges are not going to give you much relief in the 80s or 70s. Okay? So get your consultants to do the work as soon as possible.
Page are you on?
I now skipped over to 875. The last paragraph on 875. Even though the initial rezoning of the YY Ranch property was approved before she completed the purchase, she purchased the property in reliance upon them changing the zoning, thus satisfying that she showed her own entitlement to try to get the benefit of estoppel. Furthermore, she incurred substantial expenses on that reliance. Specifically, she can show that she spent $900,000 on, reliance. She's only a law student. She's a smart person. She wasn't even a lawyer when she wrote this. So what? It's not gospel. So you spent it. I don't know if I'm going to say, oh, okay, it may not be enough. Okay? There's something called the extra mile. And it goes back to the Roman times that a true Roman citizen could go to a non-Roman person and make that non-citizen carry their gear for 1 mile. So the expression is, go the extra mile. You want me to do one? I'll do two. You want to slap my left cheek? Slap my right. You better make sure you've gone beyond. Okay? That's equitable estoppel. Okay? Now think about this. Think of grandma, and then think of a 16-year-old high school boy. They all have a different framework of sexuality, right? Grandma thinks every woman should have, a bathrobe around her at all times. The boy has a whole different framework. Judges are like that. You're not going to take your chance on equitable estoppel. Because what it really means is what's fair. I'll give you an analogy. Cop pulls you over. You're going too fast. What does that mean? I don't know. I think you're going too fast. Do you want to get a ticket based on a cop pulling you over, saying he or she thinks you're going too fast? As opposed to, the speed limit's 55, here's the radar gun, you were doing 65, and it was calibrated last week, and it's proper. Okay? One's pretty clear. One is, someone's going to hold me judge, jury, executioner based on what they think is fair. You don't want to go down this argument. What do you want to do?
Settle.
So, okay, let's go on to the next section, the Fifth Amendment rights. A lot of this is a review of some of the cases that we've done. Go to page 876, second paragraph, line 3. If regulation goes too far. Again, we don't know what that means, but that's the Pennsylvania coal case. That's the first time they started to do this. Then you go to page 877, first full paragraph at the top, line 3. The 3-part balancing test from Penn Central. And then you go down about 6 lines, or 7 lines, whatever it is. The 3 factors the court considered were, 1, the economic impact on Penn Central, 2, the extent to which the commission's action interfered with their investment-backed expectations, And 3, the character of the actions. Okay? Those are not like a speed gun and a posted speed limit. A little bit vague, the character, your expectations. I expect all the money in the world. That's unrealistic, but it's what I expect. So now we get down to investment-backed expectations have to be realistic. Okay? Well, who's going to decide what's realistic? Okay? And you see at the very bottom of 877, the last 4 lines. Restrictions, they're talking about the Penn Central, Grand Central train station. Beautiful building. Restrictions on architectural significant structures were substantially related to the promotion of the general welfare. Preservation of historic architecture promotes the general health by contributing to the economy and improving the quality of life. Do you realize each of us have a different opinion on what beauty is in architecture? I'm listening to on the road today coming to class, I was listening to NPR. They were talking about Old Town Key West, Florida, where there's historic homes, 100 years old, little cottages, multicolored, all wood. And then someone was able to build a modern building. Most of the people thought it was the ugliest thing around. How could they let them do a modern building there? Then someone else came and said, wait a minute. I would rather have, this person now is a PhD expert. He said, I'd rather have a modern building between 2 historic old world homes than that Mickey Mouse facade where you try to copy it and it doesn't get done right. Now you've taken down the value of the real homes because you put the Mickey Mouse, thing next to it that's trying to be, but it's not. 2 different opinions. One says put the Mickey Mouse so it all blends. A professional says no, let's not take from the true beauty by putting a replica there. Okay? In a courtroom, each side brings in their own expert. A judge sits there and says, we're going to take a recess. Goes back to his office and says, what do I do? Takes out a coin. Or says, wow, I remember Key West. Gee, we drank for 4 days. And I'm going to go with one opinion, or it might have a whole different opinion based on whether they saw something in New Orleans or Charleston that did with architecture. You don't want to be down that road. Okay? That's why I like pro forma. It's dealing with numbers. There's only 9 of them. No, 10. I guess 0 is a number, right? You play with numbers. A little bit easier. But then they continued with that. But go to page 879. And you can see, number 4, the nexus test. She brings up the Nolan case. That was the California case. Okay? And this gets down to the issue. And I'm moving all the way over to 881. The first paragraph, which says, in a taken situation, go down line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In Mrs. Dole's case, the economic impact is substantial. She's gone from $1.5 million profit to $250,000 profit, but not total. That's important. You got to read, not total. Her anticipated profit would be reduced, but it's not 0. It's not like Lucas. Remember, we're in the school of business. We're not nice people, we're business people. We're going to make money, capitalistic, market economy. Our government should not be bailing us out because maybe you bought the property too soon. Okay? Because you thought you were going to make that. Well, you didn't. Okay? And then you go down to like the last, in the same paragraph, maybe like the last 8 or 9 lines in that. Finally, the court would consider the characterization by the county commission's actions. Here she can argue that the purpose of the rezoning was not to protect the public welfare, but politically motivated. However, ABC can counter that argument by saying concentrate a new development closer to the city center and its services is a legitimate protection of the public welfare. That's basically saying we're stopping urban sprawl. Let's not let them build Weston or Kendall or Wellington. Let's make them build in so we don't need to spend billions of dollars on roads and water and sewer. Okay? And that's the nexus that they would find. ABC can probably show a nexus between the rezoning and the public interest. So do you want to take a chance on a judge understanding that the rezoning is good for the public because it now does that smart growth, bring people closer thing? Or does a judge want to understand, well, you were going to make $1.5 million, now you're going to make $250,000, that's not fair. It could go either way. Remember I told you last week about the Kuntz versus St. John's Water was a 5-4 decision? Mm-hmm. And you read the dissent, Justice Kagan's opinion is well written, articulate. It's wow, makes sense. I don't agree with one little opinion in one sentence that makes it go that way, but it's not like stupidity. Okay? I told you about the Muir case, M-U-R-R, the new one with the homes around the lake. Well, I honestly think it has to be 9-0, but it may not be. Okay?
That one's still going on, right?
Well, what it is, they decided to accept it. They'll probably hear oral arguments in March or April, and the opinion will be written probably May or June. It will be written before June. So this summer, if you read the papers, you'll probably see that little sniglet. It'll make the Wall Street Journal, if you read the Wall Street Journal, because it's going to be a major property right case. My point of it is, if a judge wants to find a nexus to help the government to justify the rezoning by saying, oh, you're trying to do that smart growth, save stuff, the judge can help the government. If the judge hates government, like me, says you've taken her $1 million profit,
Side with you, right?
you just don't know how it's going to be.
Right, toss.
And then it goes on to the next page about total takings, Lucas. And you see on page 882 the last word, total taken. If I'm the government, I'm going to be screaming Lucas, saying it's not a taken. This isn't Lucas. She can still build homes. She can still do office. She can still do maybe not what she wanted to do. Okay, just because she used to be a big executive, that's an opinion, doesn't mean she has the right to do it. You know? And then you go down to 883, the second paragraph that starts with the court found an essential nexus. And then it moves down about 5 or 6 lines. You see the word, in quotes, rough proportionality. Remember, it was the Nolan case with the beach access for the rational nexus has to be there. Then it got down to the Dolan case on rough proportionality is. Okay? That's a test that you just don't know. If we had a bright line decision, it's easy. Remember I mentioned to you on NPR, they're talking about under Obama's last year trying to change the justice things to try to undo a lot of these minimum sentence guarantees. You had a joint, you're going away for 10 years. But they're from a broken home. But because they don't have a good IQ, their mom didn't love them enough because she had 12 jobs. Take that into account. Sorry, I would like to, but the minimum sentence says you had a joint 10 years. That's easy being a judge if you're going to follow mandatory guidelines. You can't do the right thing with your heart. You got to follow the thing. We don't have mandatory guidelines here, except Lucas to the 100% to the extreme. What I'm trying to make the point so clear is how to get to settlement. Go to 886. 886, second paragraph. Do you see the word Graham versus estuary properties? We spoke about that case. And they give the facts of that at the last paragraph on 886. That was the one with the wetlands and the mangroves of different quality. You're going to fill some yard. Now go to 887, the last paragraph at the bottom. Remember I told you the reason lawyers read cases is because the Supreme Court said a girl in the second grade has the right to be at the school with everyone else, also means it's for boys and everyone all grades. You apply one case to other facts.
What were we supposed to highlight on 886?
I was just telling you about the estuary properties case. What you want to highlight is really 887 at the bottom. Under estuary properties decision, Mrs. Doe may find it difficult to prove a taken. If the ABC County government can show it balanced the public welfare by preventing urban sprawl against Mrs. Doe's private property rights, a court is likely to find the rezoning was not a taken, but a mere valid exercise of police power. That is kind of like the bell, whistle,
Ding, ding, ding.
ding, ding, ding. Because this is the situation. If the court finds the government was using its police power, it's not a taking. Okay.
Done. Yeah.
Go back to the case that I hate, Just versus Marinette County, which took place in Wisconsin before Graham versus Estuary. And what that said is, look, if God made it, you don't have the right to fill it just because you own it. So the public trust doctrine, this is the government's police power, public health, safety, welfare, in both Just versus Marinette County and then Graham, saying, look, we're not going to let you fill quality wetlands that serve an environmental function. It's not a taken, it's police power. The minute it's police power, there's no checks to be written. Okay? My job representing developers is to say, no, this isn't police power. They've gone beyond that. This is a taken. Now, 59, 42%, 60%, 40%, who knows? Now, the one thing, if you've read some of these cases carefully, and maybe you haven't, that's okay because this isn't law school. But one thing I want you to realize, every case that you've read was not a trial court case. It was at least the first, the second, or the third appeal. Okay? Because most trial court cases don't get written down. So if you're reading a case, and I'm making reference to a case, that means parties spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in a year or two in a trial courtroom litigating, and there was a decision. And one party didn't like that decision, so they appealed, spent another $100,000 fighting in another year, year and a half. And then that party didn't like it, and they appealed again. So if this is happening to us in Broward County, we're going to file a lawsuit against the city of Fort Lauderdale down at the Broward County Courthouse. We're going to win. Broward County, city of Fort Lauderdale has all the money in the world. They just raise taxes on their citizens. They're going to appeal to the 4th District Court of Appeal up in West Palm. They lose again. Then they're going to appeal to the Florida Supreme Court in Tallahassee. They lose again. They might appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, and it might decide to hear it just like they decided to hear the Muir case. So the point of it is, and this isn't Judge Judy where you do episode 1 and then half an hour later is episode 2, you're going to get the appeal. No, this is years later. Markets have changed. Okay? In the amount of time that you've known me, people have lost trillions of dollars by having the wrong stocks in the wrong Chinese currencies. And with oil going up and we're talking about a month. Imagine years. Settle. And then you look at that paragraph as it carries over, where this law student says, however, the last sentence of that paragraph at 888 at the top, carrying over from the other page. Ms. Doe can probably show that her investment-backed expectations in developing her property as a multi-use development was valid based on the initial zoning. Okay, well, maybe. But you know what? Sometimes you get to change course. Yes, 5 other people did that thing called urban sprawl. We're not going to let any more urban sprawl. Because if we keep letting it happen, it'll be really bad. So no, we are going to decide smart growth, not urban sprawl. And then this is the killer. Go to 889, second full paragraph. Starts with, unlike Mrs. and woman with the V, Mrs. Doe was not denied all economically reasonable use of her property. She can still develop her property, albeit she'll make a smaller profit. Okay? And then you go to 890 up at the top. This is a little side venture. The first sentence in 890 at the top. DER, Department of Environmental Regulations, that's the state government, appealed, maintaining that the court should consider the entire 3.5 acres as a single parcel in determining whether the regulation and taken has occurred. This is the whole Muir case that's being decided now. You look at the 2 lots as 1 or 2. Okay? There's the bundle of rights I told you about. When they did the Penn Central, the property owner said, wait a minute, don't look at the train station they're not hurting me on. Look at the land above they are hurting me on. Look at it as separate things. The court said, nah, we're going to look at it as one thing, not, and you still have rights to develop that. It's all good. Get out of here. You don't know how it's going to come down. And then you go to 890, that second paragraph, the second line in the second sentence. Although rezoning prohibits multifamily development on the property, it does not prohibit all development of the property. Okay? It's very hard to get sympathetic when you can still do something. And it says, a court would consider the entire 162 acres as a single unit and thus not find her taken. She bought 162 units. Zoning is never carved in stone. Government says, hey, we have to preserve our community. We got to do smart growth thing. We got to pull people closer to the city. We can't afford urban sprawl anymore. We've learned our mistakes. Sorry, you can still develop. I'm not too sympathetic for Mrs. Doe in this case. Go to page 892, last paragraph. In 1995, they passed the Burt-Harris Act. Don't know if it helps. It's trying to help. Inordinate burden, we don't know what it is. But historically, over the last 20 years, it's brought more parties to the table to settle. Because I get to tell the city, do you really want me to now do the Burt-Harris Act? Because let me show you the most important thing. Go over to page 901, the last page. We are going to go back in a couple of minutes to a couple of other pages, and we'll take a break. But I want you to see something in the conclusion. Line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the conclusion. And its provision for awarding cost and attorney's fees to the prevailing party. A city attorney is sitting there, has read the same cases you've read, knows it's not that clear, but knows this. Greenberg, Trarig, Holland and Knight, Akerman, $600, $700, $800 an hour. And they put 3 lawyers per hour doing everything because they got to hold each other's hand. A year of litigation? If we lose, not only does the developer get what he wants, might even be able to, under First English, get a temporary award for the temporary taken. But I got to pay their attorney's fees. Could be another $1 million, $2 million. So that's another pressure to get people to settle. Now, some people have all the money in the world and they'll fight and they don't care about attorney's fees. A lot of people do care. So if you go to page 894, what her remedies are, it's like a summary at the very start. You can go to court and cry, it's not fair, they pulled my hair, equitable estoppel. You might go to court and say, you've taken my property, or you do this Bert Harris thing. But the most important thing, before I get to the most important thing, I want to show you where I'd like to hit this law student from 20 years ago. Go to page 896, because none of you are allowed to make this mistake. Go to 896 under section B, second paragraph, line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is wrong with line 6, second paragraph on page 896? There's something wrong with that, I think, that sentence. Mrs. Doe applies for a variance. Lay people, grammar, law students say variance. You don't get a variance from a rezoning or a comp plan. A variance is a hardship when I can't meet the technical things of the code because my property is uniquely situated. I don't think you can apply for a variance here. Now, the problem is this. She's a law student. This was reviewed by other law students, not land use lawyers. Okay? I'll give her a pass. Not giving you a pass. Okay? She was correct up front dealing with comprehensive plan issues, rezoning issues. But you don't do a variance for this. Variance comes down the road when you try to get your building permit and site plan, and it won't fit because it's something that's not your fault. Okay, the most smartest thing she said, though, in the whole thing, well, the second most smartest thing she said is on page 898. The last sentence before the paragraph that says C, remedies under the Harris Act. 898, second paragraph, last sentence. Mrs. Doe cannot accurately predict how a court would rule in her case. You should tape that on your forehead when it comes time for the final exam. You don't know.
I feel like. Why
Go
is
on.
that- Well, maybe this is pedestrian. I'm just like, this is a lot of information to say that.
Well, it is. The lawyers write this, but we've worked through a lot of things, pulling it together. I'm trying. Look, you in 4 weeks have covered a lot of ground. And the way, when they asked me to teach this class, this used to be taught on the weekends only 4 times. Don't know how they did that. I'm trying to hit where it builds upon itself.
Understood.
Where 3 weeks ago, you said Dolan, and you heard it again last week with the cases, and now you've seen it applied.
Got it.
So hopefully it comes together. But you can't predict. Now, let's go to page 899. You're going to be shocked at what I'm going to say here. The paragraph at the top that carries over, the last sentence. She's a little naive. There's a strong argument that a 50 to 80% decrease in projected profit leaves Mrs. Doe bearing a disproportionate share of the burden imposed for the public good. I wish it was that easy. There's cases out there that say, oh, government's only knocking in the teeth for 92% of your profits, and you're in my court? Get out of here. You still get 8% left.
She's whipped behind the ears, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think she means well, a little bit wishful thinking. Don't think, gee, government hurt me. Look, the original case, the granddaddy case, Euclid, 1926, the first zoning case, being able to do a multi-family apartment as opposed to I can only do single family, cut his value down 50 to 80%. Supreme Court said fine.
Right.
My point is,
That's commonplace.
I would
Name
be,
100.
what? Yeah, I mean, we know Lucas 100. I don't look. This is how I judge cases. It's very simple. If I say to someone, I will represent you on a contingency, that means I only get paid if you win, that means I'm pretty comfortable. If someone comes to me and says my profit has been cut in half or cut to 80%, I'm going to say, oh, here's a tissue. Listen, here's my retainer agreement. I need $100,000 wired to my account, and then I'll start billing against the clock. Because I don't want to take that on a contingent. I'll take Lucas on a contingent. But, that's why the most important thing, go to page 900. And yes, we've taken an hour and 45 minutes to get to the last sentence of the first incomplete paragraph at the top of 900.
Okay.
This part of the process would encourage negotiation between the parties, leading to satisfactory settlement that would avoid the expense of litigation.
Ding, ding, ding.
Now, you want to know something? Sometimes, this is how the game's played off the record. Government says, look, we want your project. We can't support your project as the neighbors. We're going to turn you down. You're going to file your Burt Harris Act. We're going to go through the motions. We're going to come up with a settlement. Then we're going to go back to the community and tell them that we avoided millions of dollars of litigation fees. We've settled. We're going to give you what you want, but I need the political cover that you get what you want through settlement, not through I'm at the dais approving it. Okay. We're going to take a break.
It's just a game, basically.
Everything's a game.
That's what I thought. too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Everything's a game.
The government even needs it to look like...
It's 8:49, which means it's roughly, 7:49. Let's come back at 8 o'clock. I want to do a little bit more stuff, and then we'll get out of here. So let's get back at 8 o'clock, and then we'll finish up for the night.
All right. Oh, let's see a picture of your dog.
My wife sent me this the other day when she was up at the mountains.
Yeah, how was that?
Oh, she had a great. She's still up there.
Last-
She landed Thursday. The snow came Thursday, Friday, Saturday. She was snowed in, and then since it's a 3-level house and the garage is underneath, the snow drifted down, so she couldn't get my car out of the. So she was even in longer. She pushed the dog's hair up.
Does she know that you talk about your dog all the time?
Oh, she knows that's what I talk about. The little hair up like that.
Oh my gosh, what a pretty dog.
It's a little runt of a thing. It's so small. What's funny, its tongue is bigger than the dog. It's never grew into it.
Precious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got snowed in.
Oh, no. No. Right.
That was the snow where she was, just snowed in everywhere. But no, she's having. But today she actually went out. She went down the mountain to Greenville, so it's fine now.
What's the level of snow up there? I know that Virginia got like 46, I think 46 inches of snow.
There's a place about an hour from our house, the highest point east of the Mississippi, called Grandfather Mountain. How tall are you?
5'8".
Okay, they got 5'6" of snow.
No way.
Yeah, five. It was 66 inches.
Oh my gosh.
This is the highest point.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't even think of that.
In 30 hours. Crazy. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. I'm gonna go get some Mountain Dew.
Do the do. Better hurry up because they close at 8. I very rarely do that, but once in a while.
Trying to. Bank's screwing me right now.
You
I asked
have
them in November. I said, when is the worst case outside things you can close? And they said, end of January. Okay, write it up. What's tomorrow? The last Friday of January. They called us Monday and they said, well, I don't think we're going to be able to close Friday. And by the way, we want you to submit your end of year financials, which we know you don't have, audited. So that's like a week and a half at least. And the seller will not give us an extension no matter how much we pay him because his lease on his relocation site fell through. So now he wants to lease back for 90 days, which we can't provide because my client, the buyer, his current landlord has a lease that starts April 1. So we can give him 30 days. He needs 90. Doesn't really need the money. So he's looking for an out, basically. And we're giving it to him.
And sometimes you file a lawsuit just to put a list pendants
Right.
against the property to hold it up. I've even been in situations where, let's assume you and I haven't talked or doing a deal, and say, yeah, you look like a smart guy, maybe you can help me with some of the brokerage development, and we'll build some condos there. And I realized, talking to you, you're really not that smart after all, and I'm going to go elsewhere. We haven't signed a letter of intent or a contract. You basically do a notarized thing called notice of your equitable interest in the property, and you throw it against the title. It's kind of like a list pendants without filing the lawsuit.
Like a
just a cloud.
Brokers Lien Act, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
It's not even broke. It's like you just say, well, you promised you'd put me in the deal.
Which we can do. We can do list pendants, or we can file a lien. And our one little nuance here that we might be able to get away with something is the seller just provided title today. Contract calls for 15 days review of the title.
Business or calendar?
Business.
Okay, well,
Maybe.
that gives you almost 3 weeks.
Maybe, but the problem is though, because the seller wants out so badly, and justifiably so, he doesn't have anywhere to go. Even if we get those 15, he may choose to make us sue him for specific performance, in which case we're shit out of luck anyway because we're already kicked out on the street. So if he wants to go that route, he can really burn us. And my guy might be out of business in a month. So it's fun stuff. So I've been calling all the way up the chain at Wells Fargo today, raising hell. trying to get somebody that cares on the line. I think I found one, but we'll find out tomorrow, I guess.
Can you get bridge financing, security against other assets?
Well, Wells is offering to do that, but they, whatever asshole, decided to throw in this end-of-year financial issue is sticking to that. So they won't even do the bridge loan.
Audited or just
Audited.
a full audit, not even a
Well,
compilation?
I'm sorry, I may be misrepresenting. They have to send it to a third-party CPA to review, whatever
Yeah,
that's
but,
called.
yeah, but there's two standards. There's no way they can do a full audit, but they can
Right.
do a compilation.
I think that's
and
what it is.
you can get on
filed.
the phone and get him to work through the night
Right.
to get it done. Where what you can do maybe is fund an escrow today, where it's all there, and then maybe it'll work some stuff out Monday or something.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
We'll see.
If it was easy, everyone would do it.
Tell you. 4 years on this deal and 3 contracts. This is the 4th. You want to be a broker? Yeah, come do it.
I am a broker. I have my broker's license.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I bet you don't have to use it too often.
I use it on big deals and then family deals. And I got it years ago because when I used to have a sales team of about 12.
Mm.
And I had one of my salespeople qualify the brokerage company. And they would always hold me hostage. And I basically said, F you, I'll go get my own license and then I'm going to fire your ass. Or that's what I did. I had to sit there. And the worst thing, it's one thing having to go to Gold Coast School for real estate sales. And then you go back to the brokerage and you say, okay, 72 hours, at least I'll learn something. And then you say, no, I haven't learned anything new and I'm here for 72 hours.
They just teach you how to not commit fraud, basically, is what those courses are all about.
The only good news that I have in my world is, since I'm a licensed attorney, that CLE, continuing legal education credit,
Right.
avoids me from having to do any of the other stuff with brokerage.
That's why I hate representing lawyers, because they always try to get a cut of your fee.
Money's money. I pay everything in the world besides my little.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You made it to the store in time.
I did. I just went to the vending machine.
Oh, okay. Good.
What'd you guys get for the return on the exam? Last question.
The last two, the ROE and ROC or whatever.
Yeah, was it 18% and like 24 or something?
There was 2 ways I was going to do it. It was either NOI over cost and NOI over equity, or what I ended up doing, I think, was the delta between NOI and the loan amount, the monthly or the loan amount, annual loan amount. So it was like $22,000 over cost and $22,000 over equity. So I think it was like 5%.
Like 90 grand or something.
Yeah, so I got like 5% and 19% or something like that was what I ended up with. But I have no idea. I just guessed on that kind of. The rest of the math I got okay, but that one I was lost.
Oh, you took the cash flow over the cost, like
Right.
total cost.
Yeah, that's wrong, huh?
Right, because it would be like, wouldn't it be like the NOI?
That's what I thought at first, but then the numbers didn't come up. The NOI over cost was like 18 or 19% or something. And then when I did NOI over cost was, it was like too much. It came up like 70% or something. I was like, that can't be right. And I'm sure I did it wrong.
No.
But it'd be nice if you'd spend a little more time going over that class instead of talking all about.
I was highlighting. I was just really paying attention to what he highlighted and
Teach
what
us
he
the
was
stuff that's
talking
actually
about.
important.
Do you want to see it? Go for it. Because my shoes.
I completely messed up. Even though I was the first one to turn in, I couldn't remember the land at all.
I noticed today my dog actually
Those terms are so.
Right here.
Cracked on the
It's
shoe.
nice in the real world.
Believe it or not, I got one right.
Careful.
And I wrote
There's
speculator.
another one.
Okay.
I'm gonna take pictures of
Just
these.
guessed,
Go
yeah.
for it. I'm glad I printed it because
Farmers.
I had it on my computer, you know?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
The thing is with I'm not like one of those. See, I feel like I'm not as much a millennial because I still need to print stuff out. if I'm
You're
studying.
like borderline, like,
Right.
you're like me, I'm like the last, like,
There's no way.
Yeah, like I need to study. I need to like feel the paper, annotate it quickly. You can't really do that with a
I
PDF
don't like them at all.
unless you have the extra premium permissions and stuff.
He doesn't really teach. He like challenges people. You know, he kind of like tries to call you out.
Yeah.
Doesn't teach anything that was relevant on that test. None of it. He relies on us to read a book. If I wanted to read a book, I can go buy the book and just memorize it. I would like somebody to explain it to me, please.
Yeah.
But I guess, you know, whatever. It's good thing the team's not here today.
Maybe, yeah.
You come out red-handed,
Yeah.
trash talking.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could just spend the time to read it. If we're gonna, you know.
Seriously.
If we're gonna have.
I think I heard that one.
Really?
I think I'm gonna say something to him Tuesday.
See how we're doing.
About just teaching him stuff that's important, not your life story about Freud and
Can I ask this? Say it to him, like call him or email him. Don't say it to him in class because he's probably gonna.
He'll get defensive and,
Yeah,
like,
he'll probably react back to safeguard like.
perfect. That's, I like provoking a response.
But I think he'll actually listen if you like email him and like talk to him. Seriously, you can already tell like he's very defensive.
Obviously, yeah.
Like
What did he say? He said, I want you to speak up to me.
you know, from the first
I
class
was
to
like, you kidding?
yeah, I'm gonna put my hand down. Oh gosh.
Oh well.
And I think he also will listen to a collective response that comes to him the right way. As opposed to
So we're gonna have to start a campaign here to like.
no, I'm not saying that. I'm not alluding to that at all.
I think you should, personally.
I was thinking about it after the exam. Yeah, I don't really know about that.
We have to talk about this with somebody.
I was like, there's no way you just copy a midterm and then put on anything whatever you want.
Okay, I'm gonna get started. It's 8:02. Okay, we're gonna get out of here before 10 o'clock.
Yes.
I'll tell you why.
Why? The dog?
No, my wife is not taking the dog back until Sunday when she arrives. No, unfortunately, most of you have other obligations next Tuesday. Don't you have class?
Yes.
Yeah, we can skip it if you want.
No, well,
You done?
if
No, finish it.
We're gonna strike two.
if you didn't have class next Tuesday, I would want us to go on a field trip. A real field trip. Unfortunately, since you do, you're going to have to go on a virtual field trip. Therefore, I want to do that thing called allocation of hours. If I keep you an hour less tonight, that's an hour that you, in theory, have in the bank to do something else,
Okay.
Thank you.
which we'll get to in a moment. If you look at the syllabus,
Yeah.
and you know that I sent you an email that said session 5, which should be next week, we're going to do a lot of a review
Change.
of the book, and then I'll do the environmental very quickly. I might flip session 5 and 6 around, and I'll tell you why. If there was nothing else in your world next Tuesday night, we would all go to the city of Fort Lauderdale commission together.
There's nothing else in our world Tuesday night.
Nothing that matters. Anyway.
Inside joke. Okay.
Because I think I am good at what I say, but sometimes a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
We could do a joint venture with the Tuesday class.
Well, you got to talk to your teacher, but this is what's going on. But this is the good news. Bahia Mar project is going to go before the city commission next Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Okay? I think you've heard me say that I'm married and I have a daughter, and my little daughter said, "Daddy, what do you do for a living?" Daddy counts to 3. Well, when I got looking at session 6, you see the word BHMR PUD materials, and I think one of the things I dropped on you early on was the staff report that was done. You don't need to read it, you just need to know that it's there. When I got my project approved, the zoning code said I could do 6 12-story buildings, each 200 foot wide, 200 foot, deep. No one wanted it. I didn't want, the neighbors didn't want it. We cut a deal. We kept the 15-story tower, and I got one other tower that's 27 stories. We did a planned unit development. I only needed 3 votes. I got 4. We got the property approved. We waited the 31 days. No one sued. We then sold the property for $150 million. The new buyer comes along, is trying to get 2 towers approved, each 39 stories, on what's known as ID, not a PUD. ID is innovative development. It's the same thing, it's just the word PUD started to get a bad connotation. But when we passed the ordinance, and I was on the committee, we said it had to be a supermajority. So this guy doesn't have to get the 3, he's got to get the 4. I think he has his 4 votes. I know he definitely has 3. I think he has his 4. It's been an ugly process. The neighbors are up in arms. They're yelling, they're screaming. When I got 27 stories approved, my best land use lawyer in the room was not me, or my 2 other ones I was paying $600 an hour for. It was my neighbors. He's going to have very little neighbor support, if any. It's going to be a bloodbath. I'd love you to watch it.
And that's on Tuesday?
It's on Tuesday.
Oh, man.
No, but it's just the beauty of it. I assigned this to my planning students. I gave them off as well. I said, you want to go there? You can. You may not get in the room, so they're going to kick you upstairs to the cafeteria to watch it on television. You can watch it live video stream. The next day, you can watch the tape from the beach. That's what I plan on doing. Because I'm actually going to Homestead to go do a business deal, public-private partnership. Remember I told you?
Yeah.
I hate government until I can be partners with government, make money off government. So I love government. I'm going to go do a deal. So I can't even be there, but I'm going to watch it. But, and again, I don't want to turn this into my war stories, but I think you seeing what the zoning code allows, what I was able to do through PUD, and what this guy's trying to do, plus the lease addendum as well, it's dirty politics. But what I'd like you to sometime do between now and next class, and it's probably going to take 3 hours. I assume it's going to be a 3-hour public hearing. It could be a 4-hour public hearing. So whatever time it takes, what's that?
Sorry, the whole.
No, I think this item. Yeah, you don't need to watch the whole thing. But I'm going to go through how you do this because you need to understand how the game's played. Today's Thursday. Usually at 5:01 or later on a Friday night, the government posts the agenda for next Tuesday. Then you can't call and complain. They're already gone for the weekend. Okay? So if you, at 5:01, and it might not be until later that night, 9, 10 o'clock. Sometimes that's when it gets posted. You do the following search. www. Fort Lauderdale, the word Fort spelled out, .gov, G-O-V, not .com, .gov. Okay? You will go to their homepage. And they have a column towards the left. I think they call it important links or quick links. They list about 10 different things. One of them is going to be city commission agendas.
Yeah.
You click on that. And you're going to get all these dates. And you're going to scroll down to February 2nd. And there'll be 2 agendas. I don't care about the 1:30 in the afternoon conference agenda. That's when they get together and just talk in a non-official basis. Remember, sunshine laws. 2 elected officials cannot discuss government business together unless it's at a public meeting in the sunshine. So what you can't do is this. Make believe you're an elected official. I come pitch you on my project. You're an elected official. I come pitch you the next day on my project. I can't tell you what she said to me. Because that's me indirectly violating the sunshine because I'm taking information from you to another elected official. You can't do that. But behind a closed door, I'll say things like, no disrespect, but you are the last commissioner I met with. And I'm feeling good. Okay, I just said to you I got my votes. But I can't say Commissioner so-and-so said this. Okay, so the commission agenda is out there. I don't care about the conference agenda. I care about the regular meeting. Either starts at 6 or 6:30. I forget. Print the agenda, or at least look at it on the screen. Question: what do you do in elementary school first thing in the morning when you're in the classroom?
Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of Allegiance. First thing on the agenda, Pledge of Allegiance. Second thing, they have the rabbi, the priest, or the pastor bless the room. Then they go into the consent agenda. Then they go into other stuff. This is under the public hearing section. Okay? Whenever there's a rezoning, 2 public hearings. When you change land use on a property, you got to do it twice. First read and second read. So you go through the agenda. You're going to somehow see towards the back the word BHMR. And there might be 2 items. It's the BHMR lease for the economic terms and the BHMR innovative development site plan. You're smart people, you'll find it. Chances are the item won't be heard until 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. I don't know where it ends. It's towards the end. I don't know how busy the rest of the agenda is. We don't know. But it's going to, even on a light agenda, there's always an hour of BS. So the soonest you would hear it would be 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Okay.
You need to then, there's usually a sublink under that item that you open up. It's going to give you a list of documents. It's going to give you usually the application that was filed by the developer, minutes from the Planning and Zoning Board before. It's going to give you the staff report. Okay, staff report is where the government bureaucrats give a recommendation. So all the backup's there. So even if you don't make it to the public meeting or watch it, all of the backup is what you read. Now, in theory, the elected officials are supposed to be dumb, blind, and not focus on this. I mean, quasi-judicial. It's like a judge. A judge is only supposed to decide the facts in front of them. The votes are already in. We already know how it's going down. I think it's going down 4-1. Okay? Maybe 3-2 with the deferral and fix it, but I think it's going down 4-1. But the government elected officials are supposed to look at that staff stuff that you see, and they're supposed to listen with an open mind at the public hearing. That's like going to Disneyland, make believe. Their minds are made up because they've already been lobbied. The votes are in. I would love you to watch the whole public hearing. And this is how it starts. Robert Lockery is a land use lawyer. I used to use him. Great lawyer. He's Mr. Fort Lauderdale. Good looking, the women love him, he dresses nice. He's going to be the land use lawyer.
There.
There.
Wow.
And the way it works,
What's his name? Robert?
calm down. Robert Lockery.
I walked right into that one.
Okay? He's very good. The way it works in Fort Lauderdale, and I'm going to talk about Boca Raton, it's different. Fort Lauderdale, the developer's applicant attorney goes first, does a PowerPoint presentation. I know Robert's going to speak. Scott Lamont, who's a land planner at EDSA, is also my land planner, did all the work for me, might speak as well. Jimmy Tate, the developer, probably wants to speak. I hope Robert told him to keep his mouth shut because no one likes him, but he thinks everyone loves him, but he's an idiot.
Take capital?
Take capital, yeah. He's arrogant. But he doesn't know that. He thinks he'll probably want to speak too. He's the developer. It's his money. But some developers, like when I was doing the project, everyone knew it was the Blackstone Group in New York that had the money, but I was the face. So they expected me to say something, to put some blood into it. Most people who know him don't want him to speak. Nothing against him. Some people just can't help themselves. Therefore, developers usually have a bad reputation, and therefore hide behind your lawyer and your consultants.
Well, is he just super passionate, or and what's is he just?
No, I think he just is. He's like Donald Trump. He takes all the air out of the room. And sometimes that's not a good thing.
Right.
Okay? It's like if you're watching that new show called Billions that goes on after Shameless, and it's about a hedge fund guy. Well, he just bought a $63 million mansion out in the Hamptons, front page. Not a good thing. Downtone it. Anyway, my point is, the developer, I had a fight for my 20 minutes of time.
Right.
I don't know how much time they're going to give him. Every other person gets 3 minutes unless you represent an association, the condo association against, they give you 5. They give the developer, let's say, 20 minutes, maybe 25. So the developer makes a presentation. I think there'll be Robert, the lawyer, Scott, the land planner, maybe the developer will say something. Then staff gets up after the developer. Says a couple of things based on the staff report. Remember, they're trying to create a record. That's one of the items on here. They're going to say their recommendation. Then, all hell breaks loose. They now open it up to the public meeting. And they make them stand in a line, and every person who signs up gets to come to the podium, speak for 3 minutes. Okay? And the clock is ticking down. Some people go beyond. The mayor gives you a second or two and says, come on. When everyone's done bitching and moaning, there'll be some people who say it's a great thing. Then they close the public hearing. No more people from the public. Then the 5 elected officials among themselves debate it. And they ask some questions of staff, the applicant, and then someone on the board, not the mayor is never allowed to make the motion. So I know the Tate brothers have already lined up, I'll cut these 3 fingers off. I know they have their 3 votes. It's the 4th I don't know about for sure. One man's on the fence. Just like Roe v. Wade, 5-4 decision.
Yeah.
Most things the Supreme Court gets down to what does Justice Kennedy want?
Yeah.
That's how our world is today. There's one guy, Romney Rogers. What matters? I know the other ones are already locked up. So someone's going to make a motion. The motion might be, I make a motion to approve, or I make a motion to approve with these 5 other conditions we spoke about. Then you got to get someone to second the motion. Okay, then there's a second. And then the person who's going to vote against it, actually it's in his district. So he's going to be passionate, and he's going to try to fight. Because 1, he doesn't think it's good for his community. 2, he has to make sure the TV see that he's fighting. But there's going to be a vote. And I don't know if they're going to do the development site plan first, then the lease, or the lease, then the development thing. But you will have that aha moment of, wow, that's how it's done. So I think you should watch that. I can't tell you not to go to Tuesday class. That would not be fair to the professor. I think you could do it in your pajamas at home whenever you want over, the following, weekend. But you really can't, because I don't know what you're doing on a Wednesday. But ideally,
We can watch it by Wednesday.
well, it's next Tuesday, and they put it up an hour later.
Oh, good.
So come Wednesday, unless there's a glitch that I don't know about, you should be able to watch it. Or at the very least, go online on Wednesday or go buy the Sun Sentinel newspaper. At least read the article. But I think what we're going to do next week is I'm going to spend a little bit of time about that. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing is whether you're going to be an architect or you're going to be a real estate property manager, or you're going to be the principal. You're part of a team, and you got to get things approved. And you got to know how it's done. So that's what's going to happen. Like I said, I think the lobbyists and the unions and all the bad politics have already cut the deal. And I know the neighbors are going to fight and moan, and there could be a lawsuit. But everything that we've spoken about for the last 4 weeks about trying to get to yes and settle and compromise, they don't do this here. Not this developer. It's a blood sport.
Oh, okay.
Now, do I think someone might say, do you need 39 stories? I don't think the issue is the building that's perpendicular to A1A. Because when I got that approved for 27, going from 27 to 29 doesn't matter. It's the second building that's going to run parallel to A1A. It's picture this, and I'm sorry for my friend in Palm Beach Gardens, but I'm looking at a white blackboard. If you take that blackboard that's facing me and you turn it so it's perpendicular towards me,
Yeah.
it doesn't block much view at all then. And that is not the issue. It's the east one that's going from north to south that's long. That's, oh my God, they're going to block. And it's right on A1A. Putting 39 stories on A1A is going to be very adverse to the area. And it's going to set a new height limit. Why not the next developer comes in? So it's a big issue. Okay. So I would like you, if you could, and if it's a lot of time, I can allocate it based on our review and getting ready for the final and all that. But I'm going to let you out before 9 o'clock tonight, so that gives you an hour. So at least Wednesday, try to make up that hour to at least see it.
Now, quick question: what if it doesn't go the way that you think it's gonna go, and it gets voted out?
Well, it might.
What if?
No. It might end up 3-2,
Or what
which
if,
is a lose.
What if he only gets 2 votes?
No, I know that he has the 3.
Okay.
The mayor,
Wait.
the vice mayor, Bruce Roberts, and the gentleman from the Northwest District, I'm pretty certain are there.
All right.
Okay.
The gentleman who is open about his alternative lifestyle, who represents the district, is against it. It gets down to what is Commissioner Rodney Rogers going to do? And you should watch that. You'll see their names, and it's important to see how the game's played because it's counting votes. Don't focus on the mayor. Don't focus on the bald-headed gentleman. Don't focus on the African-American gentleman.
Romney.
And don't focus on the gentleman who's the best dressed. He's the one who happens to be gay, and he happens to be against it because it's his district. There's a gentleman that looks kind of like middle of the road, 55, 60, lawyer type, tie, nice guy.
Romney Rogers.
Romney Rogers. Is he for or against? And that's the issue. And that one man's decision is going to make the difference on whether a project gets approved or not. That's why elections have consequences. Okay,
What do you think if you were to bet on it? You think it's going to get approved?
I think it's going to get approved. I'm hoping Rodney tries to do the following. I'll give you the 39 in the big building. I'm not going to let you put a 39-story tower parallel to A1A. It's got to be cut back. And there's room for deals. Remember, in a planned unit development, innovative development, it's kind of like you throw the zoning code out, and it's a trade among people. It's not a bad thing.
Right.
And I was able to get 27 stories, but I worked with my neighbors. Now, look, at the end of the day, if he has his votes, it doesn't matter if you're kicking and screaming, because you can sit in Bahamas with $10 million in the bank saying, I don't care that no one likes me. I got my money.
Right.
But, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to file a lawsuit then.
Which ties up.
It ties it up. The problem is also this. They're also trying to do a lease agreement. And I think the developer the city, I think, could get more money on the lease, and they aren't. Because I think certain people want this project. Because they beat me up trying to take too much than I would pay, and we walked away. After we got our approval, we would have paid their lease price. I think they realized they made a mistake, so they want to now get the revenue back, because it needs fixing up. I mean, no one, even the neighbors, are saying, look, we agreed it has to be fixed. It's a C- property today in an A+ location. That's why they allowed the 27-story tower for me, because I gave him much greater public benefit. This guy's just given 2 towers and a little small benefit. The neighbors want more than that. Okay, let's try to summarize what we went through as the problem.
Bert Harris.
Bert Harris, this property YY Ranch, is what we call urban sprawl. It's the problem. My goal is not to make you into planners. You want to be business people. But you need to learn the language. At the end of the day, I try to keep my life simple. I tell my daughter that I count to 3, sometimes 4 or 5. And I tell people, I don't sell luxury condos. I sell square feet. All I care about is how much square feet do I have to sell. You want me to make it bluegrass glass? I'll make it blue. You want a green tint? I'll make it that. You want the railings like that? You want a fancy facade? I don't care, Mr. Government. Just give me my square feet to sell. You have to learn the concept of smart growth.
Right.
Urban sprawl, business as usual, is not what you're going to do if you stay in South Florida. And if you leave South Florida, you've got to get through a planning department.
Right.
They didn't go to business school. They're not voting for Donald. They're voting for Bernie. Okay? They're liberal. Let's do public good. Let's be nice. You need to know what the other side's up to. Okay? They're up to smart growth. You should skim this APA article that I put online. But then it gives you, under the definition of smart growth, it doesn't number the pages, but it's page number 1, 2, 3. I'm on page 4, where it says definition of smart growth. Smart growth is an approach to achieve communities that are socially, economically, and environmentally stable. Now, I know this is a business school. We focus on economically stable. But you need, for your own self-interest, to also focus on socially and environmentally.
You on the second page?
I'm on page 4, where it says definition of smart growth.
Okay. Got it.
And I went down to the 3rd line, and it says smart growth is an approach to achieve communities that are socially, economically, and environmentally stable. What I normally do in my planning classes, I drew 3 circles that in a loop, and they make that little overlap area, that's sustainability. You call it the 3 P's or the 3 E's. The 3 E's are economics, environment, and equity. The 3 P's are people, planet, and profit. Which means this is a major university. Yeah, there's a business school. We care about the economics. But I bet there's nice people somewhere in this campus that do the social science and the nursing and all that other stuff. And there's other people doing the biology science stuff, the environment. You want to get a project approved? You got to make sure that the people approving your project think you've met the standard. It's called lying, if you don't believe it. If you believe it, great. I'm not quite there. I fake it. And you go through the list, and they say core principles of smart growth include, and there's A through P. Okay? You can read these on your own, but let me tell you what it's not. Picture in your mind Weston, the suburban area out west here. Picture in your mind Wellington.
Right.
Picture in your mind Kendall. That's not what they want. They want compact growth, diversity, walkability. You walk around. I have a weekend home getaway where I usually go to Thursday or Friday, park the car, and I never get in the car again until Monday when I leave. Walkability is great. The goal is to have walkability. The goal is to have mixed use, so you can live, work, play together. So then you don't need to get in your car everywhere. And if you have to get in your car, it should be a good car, a Prius. But the goal is to get into mass transit. The goal is to try to live within a quarter of a mile or a half mile of a transit option.
Right.
Or ride a bike, like Portland. So you could go through this list. So if you were to file this away, and you were to think like me, you would put the head in, BS that I have to talk to the enemy about to get my project approved.
Terrible.
Or you can call it smart growth, whatever side you want. But I think I do you a disservice if I don't let you know that the people who are going to be approving your project don't care about your pro forma, don't care about your market study, they don't care about your building. In fact, they care about everything but your building. They care about the public realm between it. Has anyone been to Meisner Park in Boca Raton?
Yeah.
Or if you've been to City Place in West Palm, or you've been to Bayside in Miami, it's not the buildings that are attractive. It's everything else. It's the walkability, it's the landscape and the fountains, it's the mixed use. That's what these planners care about. So going back to this study, it may not have worked here, but one option, and again, the word smart growth was not really used 20 years ago, but maybe she should have said, look, I really need my density. And I know you think this is so far out sprawl, but it's really not. What happens if we do, the density that I need in a compact area, and we mix the uses, and we provide affordable housing, and we actually give some money for a future transit thing, My point of it is, sometimes you can get more density if it's the right density.
So she didn't negotiate well.
She didn't negotiate well, but again,
Wasn't
this
then.
wasn't then. This was a law student, and things have happened over the last 20 years. 20 years ago, we all did the urban sprawl thing. I teach my students this. In Broward County, you cannot go east or west anymore because of the Everglades and the ocean. 250,000 people are coming here over the next 20, 25 years. They got to go somewhere. They got to go up. So if you go out to Sunrise by the mall, you'll see 2 condo towers. They were built at the wrong time. The developer lost them. There'll be more stuff like that. There'll be more density. So the point is, if you're going to be a real estate developer, and if you do really good on the market studies and the pro formas, you need to understand that not all bricks and sticks are the same. Your job is to help create the community, the public realm. So you know what? The most important thing, and I haven't read the BHMR agenda package, but you want to make sure you get a positive staff recommendation on your projects. And sometimes the best way to get a positive staff recommendation on your projects is to do something good, the public realm. I know someone in Asheville who just got a major project approved, and to get it approved, legally they couldn't force him, but he donated $250,000 to affordable housing. He bought his way, contract zoning.
Boom.
But you got to do what you have to do.
He's been telling us to give money already.
And look, when you do your pro forma, it's very simple. Revenue in, land cost, hard cost, soft cost leaves profit. Part of your hard and soft costs are going to include drywall, concrete, paint, architects, engineers, lawyers. You might have a line item, community outreach. Or community, enrichment, i.e. you paid someone off. But you don't write a check to the people for their own pocket. You help fix their security gate entrance. You put landscape in. You mitigate. It's what you have to do. It's a cost of business, just like drywall. So I'm not going to go through this. All of you can skim it on your own. But the beauty of this report, if you find 15 minutes and you speed read this, realizing a lot of this is bullets, I think you'll have that aha moment. Okay? And what you need to do over the next several 10 months of your time here at Nova when you travel, start looking at Meisner Park as, wow, this is a mixed-use development. Look at City Place that way. Look at some of the things they're trying to do in a downtown Fort Lauderdale, live, work, play. You're much better off getting that approved than, hey, I want to go take the last remaining green space that's left and put another single-family subdivision. We've done that, it doesn't work. That doesn't mean it's not going to get done anymore. It's not what the American Planning Association, New Urbanism, and Urban Land Institute is pushing. They're pushing a different framework. Everyone get that?
Yeah.
So what we have to decide then is, what are people doing next Wednesday? You don't have school here. I don't know if you have any other major obligation, but it'd be really good if next Wednesday, when you know your work, you can find some time to focus on what took place on the Fort Lauderdale thing, so we can have a real intelligent discussion. So I think it would help all of us, because very rarely are you going to get someone during the 8-week course doing 2 39-story towers right here in the hometown.
Right.
It's going to be front page of the paper, the decision that gets made. That'll be week 5, and then week 6 will be the half an hour of the environment, and then a review of the book. If you want, and I'm not going to do it since it's getting late, but based on the hypo that we just went through, if you were to have that in your mind and then go through these 130 items, we probably hit a good 20-30% of them, you know, from that point. Okay, we need to discuss week 7.
Yeah, case studies.
I need you to really be doing your own case study on something that's important to you.
Got it.
And by us focusing next week on Be He Tomorrow, you're going to see a big granddaddy of one, but you need to find something that's important to you. Just like I told you tonight, www.fortlauderdale.gov, go to the City Commission agenda. You may never have known how to do that before. You now know. Most cities do it that way. Most cities have things archived. If you're going to look at a piece of property, you want to find out the history. You got to do a title search. But a lot of it is, what did the government approve? Public record, you can get a copy of that. You got to go get that. So I really need you to be focused on that, because my friend in Palm Beach Gardens, I think, is going to come down that night. But I really want us to really have a discussion among each other. So all of us, because look, I don't care if you forget the name Loretto Lucas Penn Central. The concepts I don't want you to forget. But your ability to do a land use investigation and understand this. And even if you're buying an existing property and you just want to operate it and make it more efficient, you might want to expand it. Therefore, you need to understand if you can expand it. Okay? So that is going to be week 7. I want to spend 5 minutes discussing week 8, and then you tell me what would be a fair, a balanced approach. I could spend week 8, the final review for it, for the exam. I could just do a very genetic wrap-up of everything, and then give you a long take-home exam that would mean that you don't do anything that weekend except my exam. Maybe there's another way to test you. My goal, and you've all seen this on television, where someone's trying to do the FBI test where they got to do the obstacle course in 5 minutes and you got to get over the wall. Yeah. My goal is to get all of you over the wall, okay, in the 5 minutes or less. So I need to make sure you understand these concepts. There's a lot of material. If I want to trip you up, that's easy. That's not my goal. So I still think the take-home exam is probably the best approach, because you had a bad work day today because you tried to do something, right? People weren't making your world happy. Imagine that was week 8 and now you got to come in and do a 4-hour exam. Not as good as, okay, He's going to give it to us on a Thursday. I blocked some time out over the weekend. I got to get it to him on Monday by lunchtime, I think. But you might say, look, our weekends are too valuable. I don't want to do that. I'd rather have something in-house. We don't need to make a final decision now. I don't need you to reread every case and give me footnotes and give me 80 pages of stuff. But I need to make sure that all of you know the stuff. So are there any thoughts you want me to be thinking about? I'm not going to do a multiple choice test. The teacher before me gave a multiple choice test. I think that's kind of like high school stuff. I want to make sure you understand the concepts, that you can apply this stuff. So any thoughts on that? Or just do a review week 8, give you a take-home thing, you do it.
Works.
I vote take home.
That works.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw take home and I, yeah.
Is it gonna be, well, is it gonna be mostly like short
Take home
answers, or essays?
Okay. Well,
There we go.
well, let me put it like this. I haven't made it yet. It's not going to say what year was Euclid versus Amler-Realty.
Thank you.
And it's not going to say, tell me the names of the cases that are 100% regulatory taken and 100% physical. This is professional school. It would probably be a make-believe hypo
Right.
where you got to dig into it, and either you, I got this stuff, or he might as well have given me Latin and Greek and Chinese because I don't know what he's talking about. So it's probably going to be a problem for you to solve.
Figured, yep.
You know, that's kind of like where I'm leaning. Because think about this. You pay $34,000 one way or another for a year's time to be here, so you can then go make money, and you're going to go make money by solving problems.
Pretty much, yep.
Okay? No one pays the law firms that I do the hours that I pay them unless I have a problem that gets solved. So that's what it's about.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So we will probably then, just to wrap it up, next week talk about the EMR and a little bit more of how to get things through the system. The following week, we'll go through the textbook and we'll go through the environmental stuff a little bit, because that's all I know about environmental is a little bit. The last week would probably be a review. And I don't know if I'm going to say let's go through 1 through 130 again, or I very well might say we're here for 4 hours. I want to take the first hour and do a big picture review to make sure I know that you know the core things, and then we might discuss among ourselves the problem that you have to do. Okay? And then I don't mind if you speak among yourselves, because it's a take-home. I don't know what the honor code here is, but I need you to each write your own paper. Okay? Because in some levels you're competing against one another, but you do need to work in teams. But don't show me disrespect, because if all you do is write it up and one person changes the word fast to quick, I'm probably going to figure that out. You know, I don't drink anymore, so I'm pretty smart, and I can read, oh, gee, that looks real familiar, but they changed the word fast to quick. Some of my undergraduates do that. Okay?
Question. Next week, besides the BMR review, are there any case studies or is it?
No.
So just the BMR?
Just to let you know from a work point of view.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just give this overview, and we're going to leave. We're done with half the class. Week 8 is a review. So there's really 3 classes left. Next week, all I need you to do is try to learn as much as you can about what took place
In the hearing.
on the February 2nd hearing.
Gotcha.
You don't need to look at my big staff report that I gave you on BHMR. If you want to spend any time on that staff report that I think was in the package, spend 4 minutes on it. Just reading the headlines, the high things. Now, the most important thing about that staff report for my project, there were 27 or 34 conditions to it. And at the end of the day, I got the staff to approve it because I agreed to conditions, conditional use.
Okay.
My point was, they weren't going to let me pour that much concrete without them making sure I protected the public interest and did a lot of the good, smart stuff here, such as can't have noise, can't have light, can't have the garbage dumpsters. So if you're going to read anything about that, you should just skim the conditions that are there to say, oh, that makes sense. And government's not going to trust me. They want to make sure it's in the approval. So that's what you need to do there. So I'm going to give you an hour and 15 minutes of your time back here. I won't keep it the full 4 hours next time, but try to spend next Wednesday looking at that. We'll discuss that. Then the following time, we will review the book, because the book at that point pulls it all together. If you're a good reader,
6th, right?
that's session
six.
6. I'm flipping 5 and 6. Flipping
you are.
5 and 6.
Okay.
And if you're going to read the book,
Yeah.
these are your choices. Read it quickly, read it thoroughly, or at least read the titles. We'll go through it. And on some levels, going through that book
It's going to bring it up.
should be like, wow, I know that. Gee, we've done that. It's kind of like pulling it together.
Gotcha.
And then week 7,
Is our presentation.
it's your presentations.
You taking up the whole class for that?
Yeah. Because I think it's important, because I think we can all learn by saying, oh, so that's how it's, because, oh, what I wanted to tell you, Boca Raton. If the Bahia project was presented in Boca Raton, the developer doesn't go first. City staff goes first. They do a thorough presentation. It's dry. And then what I usually do when I do something in Boca Raton, after staff goes, I say, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, my name's Peter Henn. I'm the developer. I'm here tonight. I want to thank staff for such a thorough, fantastic job that they did. That is the best job ever. And I'm here with my team of consultants, architects, planners, what have you, and we're going to sit down because staff did such a great job. But if you have any questions, we're here. That's usually what I do when staff goes first. I don't say it that syruply, but it's the same concept. Okay? Each city does it different. If you do development work in Palm Beach County, land use lawyers like me don't take the lead. It's usually the site planners, architects, the Kerry Kildays, the Bob Benz of the world at Urban Design and Urban South and Land, all these, that's how they do it, and they make the presentations. Broward County? No, you would always have the land use lawyer do the presentation. There's a handful that do it. Each area is different. Certain areas that you go to, it might be the engineer. So what you need to do if you're going to go into real estate and go to different jurisdictions, the best land use lawyer in Fort Lauderdale is either my former boss, Debbie Orshevsky, or Robert Lockery, or Stephanie Toothache. They're all smart people, but they have no value for me whatsoever in Tampa. None whatsoever. When I'm in Tampa, I'm going to get the best land use lawyer, or the best site planner, or the best engineer. Certain areas, you go to certain engineering firms. So you've got to understand the politics of it. In certain areas, you would never bring a lawyer to a meeting. That's very rude. You'd bring your engineer to do it. So you've got to know the lay of the land. Each thing's different. There's no substitute for local knowledge. Yes?
How do you determine who goes up and speaks, or what? I mean, is it just a common knowledge? Or you ask
It's a
somebody?
feel. You figure it out. You talk to staff. What you do is, I have a major project, and I've done this everywhere. I'll go
Just to see how.
just to see how it's done. See who's the top people.
Yeah. Procedure.
Okay? And some things you got to be very low key about. Certain things you can be very professional. But and what you do is you got to at least get the best local of one thing, and they know who else to bring on the team. You got to trust someone. When I was doing the Broward County Convention Center Hotel before the Great Recession, my partners were from California and Texas. I was the guy here, and they said, look, we don't know anything about the locals. You tell us who we need on the team. And that's how it's done. You always got to get someone local. Donald Trump will always use local people. He will. He's smart enough to know that. He'll come in and say, hey, Donald's here, but he's going to rely upon the locals. And what you do many times, I will hire the best architectural firms out of Chicago, New York. But then I get a local architect to do the actual drawings, to do everything else locally, but I have the big firms do the big design. It's always a balance. And a lot of what you're going to do as a real estate person is babysitting the team, but putting the team together. Okay? So try to find some time Tuesday or Wednesday to review the BHMR. We will go through that then. Try to focus on your presentation. I assume, and I'm not the IT guy, I assume you can all get a thumb drive, and you can all stick a thumb drive in this machine, and you can all show me the PowerPoint, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, my first time at this campus, I don't know. Time allocation. If you can do a beautiful PowerPoint that has a beautiful trim around it and each page is numbered and beautiful royal blue colors like my eyes, that's all great. If you can't get to that point because this is condensed, at least let me know that you've seen this stuff. But let me tell you what I don't want. I think a PowerPoint slide should have no more than 3 bullets in one picture. I will throw something at you if you put 8, 9, 10 bullets on a PowerPoint and you sit there and start reading it. That's not what a PowerPoint's about. Because what people do, you go to a new slide, we quickly look at it, we read the bullets, we look at the picture, and we start to doze off after 12, 15 seconds. Your job's to keep us focused with some new material and use the PowerPoint. I hope this is making sense.
Yeah.
'Cause I think it's important because if you're going to get out there, you're going to do a lot of PowerPoints. Less is more. Okay? But you got to be able to make PowerPoint presentations. I need a paper copy of that if you want me to look at it.
Okay.
Now again, some of you are balancing so much right now between job, work, school. I don't expect perfection in a short course. But I need to make sure you found a project, you dove into that government, you told me what the comp plan is. Was there a rezoning? Was there a site plan? What was going on? Yeah, whatever you have to. What's that?
The story of what went on with the.
Yeah,
This is an existing one that already
Yeah.
is out there. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Now look, if you really think you have some great idea to do something new, knock your socks off. I'm making it real easy for you. At least go learn from the history
Right.
of what's been done, so when you go get a job, it won't be the first time. It won't be your first time at the rodeo,
Right.
since we're in Davie.
Would it be easier to find things on something that's already done, or
That's what- yeah, absolutely.
or pre-construction, something that's currently being built right now?
We're working on things that have amendments being planned.
Yeah, the best thing, if you found a property, almost like the hypo, they had to do a comp plan amendment, they had to do a rezoning, they had to get a site plan approved.
Okay.
There was a variance, maybe, assume it was the right word, variance. The neighbors bitched, they moaned, they got this approved. Or they had 3 phases, the recession came along, then they had to redo the last phase with a different use because no one wanted to be office, they wanted to be apartments. Something so you understand the land use entitlement process.
Oh, gotcha.
And hopefully, you'll do real estate where you buy and sell existing projects, you're just doing tenant improvements. You don't need to go through this headache.
Right.
But if you have to go through the headache, I need to make sure you can hold your own with people on the team. Okay?
Like it.
Drive home safe. Spend some time next Wednesday looking at the www.fortlauderdale.gov. I hope this hypo helped a little bit to pull some things together. And the most important thing you learned tonight about the hypo was what? Settle.
Question, Professor Hatch. What's a good website to start to hold the history, like the variances and stuff?
Well, you pick a city and a project, and then you go through. What I would do is I would call someone in the planning department. Say, hey, I've been in this town for a while. I saw that project. Can I get the files on that? They might say, oh, that's so old, it's a microfilm. Or what you might do many times, like if you go to Delray Beach, I know they do this on their website. They have on the website for the Planning and Zoning Department pending projects. Okay? And you can click on that and it'll give you a list of things that are going on. Or if you know that there's a new Trader Joe's that was put up a year ago that wasn't there a year before, well, gee, there's probably a file on that. Go down and figure it out.
Got it.
Okay?
Thank you.
What's the other class that you're taking here on Tuesday?
Real estate development, part one. Real estate development, part one.
What, the process?
Yeah.
Is he going into any of the land use stuff at all?
He touched up on a little bit, just skimming over. He's not like going in detail. He's not going in detail.
He has been very vague.
Yeah.
You guys are just on it. Have a good week.
You too.
You. That's what I'm missing.
He's gonna put it up like Monday night or something.
You got him?
Supposed to do this assignment?
Is your other professor giving you a take-home final
see
at the
it too,
same
bro.
time? Or will you be done with him that Tuesday? So when I give you the final on a Thursday, there's nothing else you're
That
dealing
is
with.
such a good question. He's giving us the final when we're just finishing your final.
Yeah,
Last week.
it's been like the
It's in,
final every
it's in,
weekend.
it's in, is the final in class?
I didn't
More
think
than
so,
likely.
so I don't know.
More than likely.
The way I read it, his final's in
Yeah,
class.
it's gonna be in class.
Well, then, if that's the case, his final is Tuesday.
Yeah,
I'm giving you a
Oh, I see what
take-home,
you're saying.
yeah,
and you have extra time.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
See,
yeah.
I didn't want to waste
A week.
a week of you sitting here
I understand.
when I could actually review and help you.
Exactly.
So the semester technically is over. I don't need to get the grades in until later.
Okay.
So you have the weekend to do that.
Thank you.
But I don't want to hurt you with the double up. He's not doing it that way.
Appreciate that.
No, he's not.
That's-
We'll be done.
okay, drive home safe. I don't think it's raining.
Thank you.
Good. I hope your problem works out.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, appreciate it. That's fine. No, I packed.
All right, so much reading to catch up on for this class. I'm so glad. He's such a strong contrast